Howdy gamers, how's it going? Today we're doing Legion. Legion is insanity. It's got a city full of crackheads, it's got spaceships, it's got Moose Tauren. Moose Tauren? What else is cool about Legion? Well, it was the first expansion with dynamic leveling, so you essentially had to get Lore Master to hit level cap. As someone who loves to devour lore, this was an awesome change for me. Before, there were a lot of options, but without dynamic leveling, you'd skip certain zones or leave zones early. In Legion, everything scaled, so you were incentivized to finish out each zone. So it's Legion Lore Master time. Yo boy wants him some allied races. We're gonna start with the basic Legion zones, beginning with Azuna, then move to Val'sharah, fly up to Highmountain, sail over to Stormheim. Then we'll do a big compilation of some other smaller achievements I picked up along the way for a little bit of dopamine hit. And with our plan laid out, let's light some candles to set the mood with a little recap. The Orc Warlock, Gul'dan, also known as Gul'stan, comes from Warlords of Draenor timeline to make our timeline have a real bad time by opening the Tomb of Sargeras, allowing demons to flood into Azeroth. The forces of Azeroth attempt a spearhead assault to take out Stan and shut down the tomb. This is where the first Broken Shore scenario we did in episode 1 comes in, where we fight our way up the island but are forced to make a hasty retreat when Stan whips out a massive army of demons. This causes the Horde to retreat when Vol'jin, their war chief, is killed, and then the Alliance has to retreat because the Horde retreated, and they lose their king Varian Rin. Then, in the Legion pre-patch, we find out about the Pillars of Creation, some ancient artifacts that are used to seal the Tomb of Sargeras, but we barely know where they are, just that they're somewhere on the Broken Isles. And this is where Legion itself starts. We teleport Dalaran to the Broken Isles and begin harassing the citizens of the Broken Isles for the Pillars. I set my eyes on Azuna, the westernmost zone in the Broken Isles. It's a very magically charged zone with some blue dragons hanging out, some arcane elf ghosts, and lots of demons. First thing I do as I head down is begin helping some demon hunters fight some demons. I smack some demons in the face, then set up some wards to fortify their demon hunter defenses. Then I head into the demons' territory to start rustling their jimmies by messing up their nefarious plans, and free some prisoners, including a big blue dragon who invites me to go help her friends. Her friends, the other blue dragons, are being heckled by meth addicts from Suramar. The dragons make some great meth, but don't want to share with the elves. I start by helping Khadgar, the main character, heal Walter White, then fly around helping some other dragons in an attempt to bribe them to tell me about the Pillars of Creation. They have me take out a lot of meth heads and even snuff some DEA agents, so they tell me about the pillar as a reward to keep me quiet about what I did. It's in the hand of some of the Ghost Elves. I fly over to the Ghost Elves, who ask me to kill some Naga and some Murlocs and do some other stuff. I do their bidding, discovering a sneaky secret message in the belly of a big dinosaur that'll come into relevance a little bit later. After killing a bunch of the amphibians for them, they decide to introduce me to Prince Ferondis, who they all seem to really dislike. I learn why they don't like him, and he's actually a pretty based dude. So back 10,000 years ago, when Queen Azshara was making friends with demons and allowing them to pour through the Well of Eternity, this was obviously not a good thing to be happening, and he saw that, so he had a plan to use his Pillar of Creation to blow up the Well of Eternity and stop the demons. He gets ratted out, and Azshara gets real butt blasted. She runs over and turns everyone into ghost elves, unable to actually die. They're all really mad at Ferondis for this, so they hold a grudge. I escort him to his school, but he won't follow me in because he's sad, so I get the pleasure of becoming a student. I steal some clothes off the back of some students and learn how to wand target dummies. Then I get some books from my teacher to summon some spooky ghosties to fight. And last, I get to do this awesome puzzle game. It requires me to walk on all of the parts of the shapes, and it seems like it'd be really easy, but by golly is it not made well, and it takes me way too long to fill in the shapes. Like, look at this. I'm tracing the shape. I am standing on top of the parts that need to be filled in, and I haven't gotten credit yet. Once I pass class, I mug my teacher for information on the Pillar of Creation, where I then get reverse mugged by some Naga. We're rescued by the prince, who shows me a vision of him no-thanksing Azshara's offer to reverse the curse if he swears loyalty. This act wins the heart of his people, who say they'll like him again because he has big fiery balls. The last pillar is hiding in the dungeon Eye of Azshara, waiting to be claimed. But before I do that, I answer the bottle from the dinosaur belly that we killed earlier and save a bunch of sailors who were captured by giants in Naga by arming them and helping to destroy everything in sight. Then I knock out a small story where I find the crashed remains of Sylvanas' ship and tattletale on wherever she went by finding the captain's logs and giving them to an Alliance lieutenant. And with that, I get the achievement for Azuna. Then I knock out the dungeon to get the pillar and place it in the center of Dalaran. Next, I head to Val'sharah, the land of the druids. It is a very lush zone with lots of wildlife and various creatures, but to the north, the Emerald Nightmare leaks out and makes things spooky and red. This is the ancient birthplace of the druids, and where the world tree Shaladrasil lives. I'll start nicer with the weird side quests before I go into the main story of the zone, since it segues nicer that way. Gul'stan resurrected a bunch of night elves at the Black Rook Hold, who begin attacking the human town of Bredensbrook. I head over, help them, and make our way into the hold, killing a dreadlord and saving Maiev, who is the leader of the Wardens. She was locked there in jail for some reason, and now we get to the real meat of the zone. I start out by talking to Malfurion about the pillars, who's all like, "Oh, we'll knock this out lickety-split. Let's go talk to Cenarius, who will give us the Tears of Elune. Ha-ha!" But Cenarius is in a corruption coma, and he ain't giving us nothing. To help heal him, I'm sent to find the Archdruid of the Veil, Archdruid of the Claw, and Archdruid of Lore. I start with the Archdruid of the Veil, where I quickly find he's been made evil and mean and red, and I have to unalive him. Then I hit up the Archdruid of the Claw, where I have to kill some furbolgs for the lulz, then wake him up and wake his homies up and kill their nightmares. Finally, the Archdruid of Lore, who's getting harassed by some harpies. I save his friends, then beat up the harpies to leave them alone, and he's good to go. With the gang sort of together, I'm sent to the Temple of Elune to get the big green dragon mommy Ysera to help us. I try and find the Tears of Elune at the temple, but it turns out they've been stolen by Xavius, the big bad satyr. And with the plot twist of the century, Ysera changes teams when she's smacked in the head with the corrupted Tears of Elune, and Malfurion is captured after attempting to Leroy down Xavius. I go off on an epic journey to find Malfurion with Tyrande, raiding Harpy Village and slaying them so Tyrande can use moon magic to find Malfurion. She eventually narrows him down to the heart of the spooky red stuff. We chase around a few illusion Malfurions and eventually find him being sucked into the dungeon right there. And despite us being druid buddies and him being the biggest baddest member of our team, Tyrande makes me go and help her at the Temple of Elune. Xavius steals Ysera, where we take her down and she gets ate by the moon. Now, I'm just saying, but Ysera is a dragon aspect. Like, they are the biggest, baddest dragons around. Like Malygos, we had to take him down with an entire raid and the support of the red Dragonflight and several other shenanigans. Then there's little dragons like Nefarian or Onyxia that require large raid groups and powerful folk to take down. Meanwhile, Ysera just gets hit in a quest with some generic guards in Tyrande and just falls over. Oh well. Anyway, I take the Tears of Elune to Dalaran, place them in Khadgar's special room, and now I am at 2 out of the 5 pillars. Malfurion and Cenarius get rescued later. I gotta find the other pillars. Up next, Highmountain, Moose Tauren land, the only good horde race. Despite having like 7 storylines to complete for this achievement, this zone actually goes by pretty quickly, with a few of the stories only having a handful of quests. It starts by heading to Moose Thunderbluff, also known as Thunder Totem. I'm told these Meese were living at peace with their neighbors the Drogbar for a long time, until their leader decided to steal the Moose artifact, which is also the pillar of this zone. Things are in chaos since this happened, so I'm sent over to help the Rivermane tribe. I help these farmers kill some bugs, then head over to the river and help free some trapped fishers and rescue some fish as well. Then, the Drogbar attack the town of Riverbend directly. I try to evacuate some citizens before the attack comes, but once it comes, it destroys the town. I rescue some defenders and confront the leader of the Drogbar, but he escapes, and I head back to tell the boss, Mila, the bad news that Riverbend has been destroyed. Mila knows the time to get revenge is nigh, so she calls on me to rally the moose. But first, I have to learn about Highmountain, who the zone was named after. I raid the moose herb cabinet and make a fat blunt to smoke and get so high, I imagine I'm Highmountain. I run around for a while, smashing demons and meeting some familiar faces. The whole time in the real world, the moose locked me in a padded cell with some pillows until I got over it. I hit my peak and see Tichondrius and beat him up as well until I finally pass out. I wake up sober, and my punishment for smoking all of the moose herb is rallying another 2 tribes of moose to fight the Drogbar. But first, Ebonhorn takes me aside. I've known this guy Ebonhorn for like a solid day or two, so he trusts me like a brother. Or a sister, I guess. He takes me down into this dungeon and reveals that he's been a dragon the whole time, but hasn't told anyone. I'm a little weirded out, so I run out the back door so I can run up to the Skyhorn tribe and recruit them to help me by killing more harpies. Then I head up to recruit the Blood Totem tribe. And if that evil name sounds like foreshadowing, it is. It turns out they're fel corrupted. But it's okay. I make friends with some friendly Drogbar instead. And they're close enough to keep the big moose happy. Finally, with all of the moose and moose proxies united, we go to fight the big cheese himself, the leader of the mean Drogul, Dargrul. Of course, he escapes, and what do you know? I have to do another dungeon. But it's okay, because through the power of video editing, the dungeon is already done. And here I am in Dalaran turning in the pillar. And here I am in Stormheim to start Stormheim, where I'm sent to Dalaran again, and then to Stormwind, and then back to Stormheim, but this time on a big flying boat. I have to fight the Horde, because Glenn here is butt blasted that Sylvanas pulled out of the original assault and let Varian die. And she killed his son. And she destroyed his homeland. So instead of using our full might to take down the threat to our planet, Glenn wants to go bop the Banshee Queen. I ride our flying boat over to Stormheim, where we ambush the Forsaken ships. I have to shoot these bats out of the sky, then fly around from ship to ship, killing everything in sight. Valuable bodies that could be thrown into Stan's army of demons. They get on the ship and crash this valuable asset to fight the Legion, and I scramble to help the survivors and put out a distress call to call for reinforcements. The Alliance head over to Greywatch to wait out reinforcements, while I talk to this cool bird, and he tells me to go meet up with our boy here, Javi. Javi wants me to do some trials to prove myself. If I survive these, I might be worthy of getting the Pillar of Creation here. I kill some champions to get the attention of the Trial Man, and then do the trials and pass, receiving his blessing. My next trial requires me to head to the top of this mountain. In typical Hero of Azeroth fashion, I kill many folk that live at the base of this mountain so I can begin making my way up. I get to the top of the mountain just by flying because clearly these fools didn't have their Pathfinder done yet, and have to prove myself to the dragons. I start by freeing some dragons and killing some bad guys who heckled the dragons. Then I do some dragon riding. Dragonflight confirmed! And throw electric bombs at 150 dudes, passing the dragon's trial. I head back over to Javi to ask him where to go next. He sends me to Hustvald to do more chores. I gather some bear hearts, lay some ghosts to rest, and head into this giant crypt. I make my way through to revive a shield maiden to deem me worthy. But she begins getting sucked into Helheim, the Vrykul underworld, and unfortunately, I get sucked down as well. I wake up in Helheim, and I have to disguise myself to pass this big dog. Then I head up to Helia, who runs this place, to demand that she let me out. She says no, and then sends me off to find shards of my own spirit. I get them, and I am returned to the world of the living, where I pass the trial. The Alliance then calls me back over to play again, and Glenn says he's found Sylvanas. I make my way over to this vault, where I am given the blessing I need to access the shrine. We walk in on Sylvanas trying to torture Aegir into submitting to her, effectively giving her immortality. Sylvanas dies pretty regularly, and the Valkyr that were with Arthas just kind of revive her every time she dies, but she's running out and she needs more. Glenn is pissed and pops off at her, destroying her magic lantern that allows her to capture and torture Aegir. Finally, we head up to the gates of the Trial of Valor, where the Legion has set up shop. Because we went too long without fighting demons and we can't have that, I beat them up and am allowed to take the Trial of Valor to receive the 4th pillar. I run through the dungeon real quick to pick up the Aegis, proving myself worthy, and head back to turn it in Dalaran. And with all of that, this Legion stuff was a bit longer than I had anticipated. I really like WoW's lore, and the next set of zones have better story and require a little more backstory as well. So I'm splitting this video into 2 parts. First one's obviously out now. The second part, which will be Suramar, the Legion Fall campaign, and Argus, will be out next Sunday. But as a little bit of a holdover, here's some high-octane dopamine with some extra achieves I picked up along the way. I became a mailman for 3 achievements. I played this minigame for 1. I played in a drum circle. I explored Stormheim. I explored Highmountain. I explored Val'sharah. And I explored Azuna. Finally, I climbed up this big dude's foot. And there's a few others I got as well along the way, but I didn't capture them, so I'm not really sure which ones they were. But next week, I'll knock out a few more of the weird little achievements in the Legion questing and exploration categories, as well as the rest of the Legion storyline quests. And for reps, I finished up Cenarian Circle, Brood of Nose Dormu, and Ashen Verdict, and I made progress on all the other ones. Feel free to dab on that subscribe button and flex on the like button if you like this content. Thanks everyone, see you on the next Achievement Man.